Software engineering is a constantly changing space, and it's important to learn how to stay ahead of the curve. So in this video, I'm going to predict what are going to be the biggest trends for software engineering in 2024. And the first of these trends I see is the obvious one of AI and machine learning, which has been the biggest trend over the last year, but I think it's going to change a bit in 2024. Specifically, the way I see this changing is a push away from simply working on improving the models. Of course, that's going to continue, but the bigger push is going to be in finding better ways to use the models and better ways to interact with them. So far, most of the interaction we've done with these AI models has been through things like ChatGPT, so chatbots, but this usually isn't the best interface for interacting with things. And we've seen this through tools like GitHub Copilot, which use the same models, but can be far more effective just because they have a better interface for interacting with the tools specific to a sort of specific use case. So I think we'll see more of this over the next year in finding better interfaces for interacting with models like GPT, and we'll find more use cases specific to software engineering for things like using it to write tests for us and just automating repetitive tasks. The next big trend I see for 2024 is one that can make a lot of software engineers feel nervous, and that's low-code and no-code solutions. So these are tools that allow you to build software either by writing no code at all or just writing a little bit of code on top of what they give you. And in the past, these have been very restrictive because they're essentially like drag and drop systems, and they restrict how much you can build to how much is sort of pre-built for you. But these are getting better and better. And I think we're getting to this inflection point where a lot of these tools are no longer restrictive. Instead, they're sort of the opposite. Because they allow you to build things so much quicker, they allow you to build things you couldn't build without them. Now, of course, I'm not saying that we're going to be using low code and no code for absolutely everything. I don't think that's going to happen. I just think they're going to start getting more and more popular as people realize that some of them are very good tools and you can still write custom code on top of them. The next trend I see is a push towards what I would call simplified coding. So less frameworks, less libraries, simplified architecture, and just a simplification to most things to push back a little bit on all of the bloat we've been adding to applications over the last few years. And really, I think this is a bit of a cyclical thing, because what happens is all of these new frameworks, libraries, etc. come out, people get excited about them, and they start using them. But then over time, they realize that they're getting more and more bloated, and they start pushing back a bit, saying, maybe we don't want all of this bloat in our applications. But then a new shiny framework comes out, and people start adopting that. And then that one starts to feel bloated, and again, they start pushing back again. So I think we're just going to see this cycle continue, but over the next few years, I think we'll feel a bit of a pull back towards more simplified applications. And a key trend within this idea of simplification, I think, is going to be HTMX. So HTMX is a library for building user interfaces, so it might sound a lot like something like React. But the key point to HTMX is just that it's super simple, and a lot of the logic is just handled inside of what feels like HTML. The next major trend I see is a big push towards ethics, privacy, and security being top priorities for most tech companies. We've seen over the last few years that tech companies are certainly not invincible, and I think because of this, we will actually see a bigger push towards ethics, privacy, and security. Mainly because companies recognize that just a single major mess up in these areas can completely destroy an entire company. So because of that, I think it's reasonable that this becomes a top priority for most, if not all, tech companies. And now before we get to the fifth trend, I did want to share a few honorable mentions. So ones that I thought of putting on the list, but just didn't quite make it. And the first of these is going to be the blockchain. So regardless of what's happening with Bitcoin and Ethereum, I think we'll continue to see more and more blockchain development as we figure out what use cases we can actually have with this technology. The next honorable mention is AR, VR, and the Metaverse. I think we'll continue to see more and more development in this area, but the reason I didn't put it in the actual list is because I'm still not super confident that we'll ever actually see adoption, but regardless, in the short term, there will still be a lot of work in this space. The next honorable mention is the Internet of Things, and this is just an honorable mention because it's been a trend for a while, and I think it's going to continue, but nothing all that specific to 2024, but simply put, this is just the idea that more and more things in our lives are going to become connected to the internet, and they're going to be exchanging data with each other and making intelligent decisions on their own. And the next honorable mention is quantum computing, and this one's an honorable mention, honestly, because I just don't really understand it all that well, but my overall understanding is simply that quantum computing is one of the most important emerging technologies, and that we have been making big leaps in this space, and we will continue to do so. And the next major trend I see for software engineering in 2024 is going to be Rust, and more specifically Webassembly. So if you don't know, Webassembly essentially allows you to write these more performant applications in the browser. So you can use languages other than JavaScript to write more performant code. So because of this, I think we'll just see a bigger push towards more and more applications that are built for the web first. And if you want to get a job as a software engineer in 2024, you will still need to pass coding interviews. And if you want to learn how to best prepare for those, you should watch this video next.